Hello my dears, it's Katie and I'm bringing you guys a new segment on my channel. So something you guys probably know about me at this point is that I don't DNF books. And I still don't DNF books, but I am working on figuring out ways to kind of simulate that kind of experience without actually DNFing a book. And I kind of came to the conclusion that the best solution for doing that is to get samples. So you guys know I primarily read my books on an e-reader, and I have my Kindle here. It's a nice big boy. I have an ancient Kindle keyboard, as you can clearly see. I think that's a great feature to have because I have a lot of books that sound really great, but there's just something about it, book that kind of has me a little bit unsure about it, and either my library doesn't have it, or I don't want to get it from the library and I don't want to buy it, and none of my friends have it, or if they do have it, I just don't want to own it. So I'm just like, okay, what is a way that I can try this book and see if it's something that I actually want to try and get from the library or buy for myself? And I came to the conclusion that getting samples is the best way to do that. So if you kind of go on my Goodreads page, I actually have a get sample shelf, and it's an exclusive shelf where it's just like, I am interested in these books, but I don't want to buy them and I don't want to get them at the library, or I can't get them at the library, but I still want to try them to see interested in them shelf. I have been downloading a whole bunch since the beginning of the year, which is kind of around the time when I started toying with doing this, and I've just kind of been gathering them. I haven't read many samples yet. So the way that I'm going to work this in a way that is not super overwhelming to me, but also in a way that is just fun and hopefully a way to track it, rather than just trying to track it on Goodreads and create another exclusive shelf for read samples. Because the way that this is going to work in theory is I will weed out the ones that I don't want to read, and then I'll just remove them from my shelf completely, or I will add them to my to read because I'm just like, yes, I am interested in continuing this. I want to get it. So the way that this is going to work is I am going to vlog my experience doing this because I don't feel comfortable including these samples in a wrap up because I am not actually reading the entire book. But I want to still track them and let you guys know some of my thoughts on why I'm going to continue something or why I'm not going to continue something. So we'll see what ends up actually happening with that. And the way that I'm going to do this is I said I'm going to vlog my experience, but I think in order to make this fun and interesting and also kind of cater to my moods, I'm going to do it in a genre specific way. So I might do contemporaries at one point, I might do fantasy another time, historical fiction another time. You kind of get the gist. And I'm really excited to do this. So without further ado, let's just get into reading some samples. I read my first contemporary sample, which was Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed. And basically the general verdict is I'm not sure about it. I read it and I had some issues with it. I wasn't super connected to the characters. I didn't love the writing or the style super much. It's told in a dual perspective between the male and female protagonists, and I found that I liked Maya's portions just a little bit more. Definitely really, really cute. So I like it from that aspect. It would definitely be a quick read. I like the political subplots because I always tend to like that. I really like the different diversity aspects that are being portrayed. So there are things that I really liked, but then there were other things that I was just not super into. And I thought that looking at reviews for it would help me a little bit, and it seems like a fair few people who do like it, but then I did find a few own voices reviews for both the Jewish rep and the Muslim rep And on both sides of the arena, a lot of people seem to have issues with the way that things were being done, and just kind of how it ended up. So from that perspective, I'm not so sure it's something I'd want to continue, because, as I've talked about before, just because there's representation doesn't mean it's good representation, or even representation that means something to your specific experience with that identity. But it just seems like across the board, a lot of people from both of those identities were really not super into it, and that it was just kind of thrown in there as like, oh hey, there's this rep, and without really going into depth on the cultural aspects. So I'm not so sure that that's something that I'd want to really read. So I mean, it is a maybe. Like, it might be a fun, quick, easy thing to pick up that you don't really have to think about or anything, but I'm not so sure that this one's for me. Last night I ended up reading Only When It's Us by Chloe Leese for my sample, and I have quite a few thoughts about it. I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, I'm not going to be continuing this one. So it started off with a lot of promise. It really grabbed me right from the beginning. It's really engaging and kind of easy reading, but that only goes so far in a book for me. I didn't like the female protagonist at all. Willa was really, really irritating, really frustrating, and at times, like, I understood where she was coming from, because she was talking about feministic ideas and things, and that's great. We love to see that in books, but at the same time, it wasn't executed in a really good way. She had like major temper issues, and it was like to the point where it didn't feel realistic. Ryder was interesting, but I hated where the author was going with his arc, and just the portrayal of his disability, which we're going to talk about at length in a second, because that was the most frustrating part for me of the whole book, was just the portrayal of disability and how that's handled in a school setting and the ethical issues that go along with it. I have feelings and thoughts on that. So I didn't really like the characters. The plot was fine. It's really secondary to the characters' story itself, because they are the center of the book. They kind of create the plot. But it takes place in a college setting, in a specific class. Willa is a D1 athlete, and Ryder he was also an athlete, but he is no longer an athlete because of something that happened to him. So now he's disabled, and so I mean, that's kind of where the plot is going. Willa's mom is also sick with cancer and is dying, basically, and it's just, I don't know, just a lot of stuff is happening all at once, and it's kind of contrived a little bit. Into my issues, my biggest issues of this book. So, as I mentioned, Ryder is disabled. He has hearing loss from getting meningitis, and he has not spoken in like 2 years or something. And that's fine. I love to see that representation, but that's kind of all it is at this point, is that it's there. And it's not being handled very well. Now, I don't have hearing loss. I don't have that kind of disability, but I do have other kinds of disabilities. And just talking about my experiences and reflecting back on my experiences, especially in a school setting and being disabled, I was severely angry with how this book was handled in that respect. So basically what ends up happening is Willa is a D1 athlete. She feels very entitled. She kind of has this mentality of, hey, I'm going to be missing a bunch of classes, give me notes when I ask for them, kind of a thing, to the professors. And she's used to being given that special treatment. But this one professor that she has right now for her, I think it's business management or something, class, is not about that life. He wants her to work for her grade, and should have told him beforehand that she needed these kinds of things, rather than just kind of springing it on him. And he ultimately tells her, hey, why don't you ask Ryder to help you, because he gets the notes. And she thinks he gets special treatment, but that's because she doesn't know about his disability. And as someone who has gone through things like that in the past, where I am very open about my disability, but I don't broadcast it, so that aspect was really irritating to me. Like, people, even like people who I've interacted with in school settings who knew about my disability, some of them resented me for it. They thought I got special treatment because I got specific things that I specifically needed in order to make it the level playing field. That's the purpose of it. It's not special treatment, it's getting things that I need. It got like just that kind of a thing really bothers me, and to see it just kind of right there flat out in a book as a plot point pissed me off. And then the other people, sometimes they feel that they're entitled to getting the same thing as someone else, and it was just a problem. And when it came out that the teacher of this specific class was Ryder's brother-in-law, there are a lot of ethical issues that go along with that, but they are not addressed. Like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. Like, I won't, give you any special treatment or whatever besides what I'm, legally obligated to give you or whatever. And I'm like, there are so many problems with a family member being in your class. I don't know. I had a lot of issues, clearly, with that aspect. And just as someone, like, I could kind of relate to Willa's reluctance to asking for help. Like, I have definitely been there. Experience. I've had a lot of issues with dealing with teachers who are required to know about my disabilities, and it was just a mess, right? Okay. And so, just like asking for that help, like, I understand her issue with that. And then at the same time, like, I was in similar situations of, Ryder, just needing specific things, getting specific things, and if someone were to find out about that, then they would be like, hey, why don't you give me X, Y, and Z notes? Or, hey, why don't you share X, Y, and Z with me? And I'm like, I literally cannot do that. A lot of schools will have you sign like special contracts that are basically like, you cannot share this material with anybody else. And the fact that they were just so nonchalant about that in the book, like, oh, hey, why don't you just ask Ryder, maybe he'll like share his notes with you. I'm like, typically that is not something that you're allowed to do, period, end of story. Like, so I just didn't like that. I couldn't see how a romance would connect them. But I ultimately did end up looking up a few reviews after I finished the sample, because I was curious to see what other people are saying. I didn't see many reviews about the representation aspect, the little digging that I did do. But I read a lot of things that really solidified in my mind that it was a good decision for me to not continue on with this one. Last night I finished another sample, and that was By the Book by Amanda Sellett. This one was actually really cute. I'm still on the fence about whether I want to continue it or not, but it's probably my favorite of the samples that I've read so far. So basically what this is this follows our main protagonist, Mary, as she finds out that her school has been shut down, and she has to transfer to a new school, a public school. And she's been in the same school system for so long, with the same people for like 12 years. So she's transferring to this public school, and just kind of trying to find her place. She's described as very old-fashioned and loving older literature, like classics and things, and a lot of her older friends make fun of her for that. So now when she's going to this new school, she meets a group of girls, and they're having a boy trouble situation, and she decides to try and give them advice based on all these books and classics that she's read, and is starting to kind of compile a book of stereotypical literary men to stay away from, and she's just kind of comparing them to other people. And that's kind of the gist of what's been going on. And it's really cute. So Mary as a protagonist is very awkward. Like, I feel a lot of secondhand embarrassment, awkward kind of a situation. So that's kind of been interesting to experience, and is the main reason I probably wouldn't keep reading. The plot is interesting. Not a lot seems to have happened so far. The setting is fine. It's high school. So it's, a light rom-com. And generally, I just like it. It's really cute and really funny, but at the same time, like, really awkward. So yeah, I'm on the fence about it. I'm got a maybe, mostly because of the writing style. There's just something about it that is not vibing with me the way I was expecting it to. And Mary as a character is sometimes a little bit in your face and just, as I said, awkward. I did, as with all of the other samples, look up a few reviews after I read, and it seems to be a pretty mixed bag. Most of the ratings are generally middle of the road, and it's just everyone seems to have like a different reason as to why. Last night I read The Gravity of Us by Phil Stamper, and spoiler alert, I actually really, really liked what I read, which is a surprise because as we've kind of learned from this point, contemporaries generally aren't my thing. I'm trying a lot of stuff here, but I ended up really, really liking what I've read so far. So The Gravity of Us follows a boy named Cal, who is a journalist / social media star. He's basically a YouTuber, guys. And he lives in New York with his family, and his dad has entered a contest to become an astronaut to go to Mars. And I think it's like a reality show is going to determine whether, like, who gets picked as the last slot or something strange like that. And it kind of turns out that his dad did get accepted to partake in this reality show, and that's going to change Cal's and his entire family's life. Cal's family is very dysfunctional, which is interesting to see in a book in this kind of a way. They're all kind of self-absorbed in their own way, so it makes for a very complicated dynamic between the characters, and it makes for very frustrating characters. They're all irritating in a different way, but for some reason I'm really enjoying it. It also has like this multimedia format kind of thing, like it shows comments from his YouTube stream and things of that sort. I don't know, I really like how that was done and how that was handled. And I don't know, just it's very gripping. So like the writing really drags you in and immerses you like right away. So I just really liked how invested I got pretty quickly. The characters are very flawed, but that kind of makes them interesting. The setting, it's very, as I said, it's very immersive. So I kind of did feel like I was walking the streets of New York for a little bit, and I was really in his apartment and things of that sort. So I mean, that was really interesting as well. And then the plot, it sounds like it's going to be interesting. And I mean, I know at its core, it's going to be basically a rom-com of some kind. But we haven't met the love interest yet or anybody, so I can't talk about that at all. But as with all the books, after I finished the sample, I did look up a few reviews, both good and bad, just to see what people are saying. People primarily seem to really like this book. It seems to have a pretty high regard in terms of ratings. And it does sound like there is some problematic aspects to the relationship, which I'm not so sure I'm digging. But at the same time, I want to see it because it seems like there's going to be more to the plot than just the romance, which is something that I tend to like. I like books where the romance is not the forefront. Like, my favorite contemporary is probably Red, White, and Royal Blue. So anything that is like that, where it's like, yes, romance plot, but also like heavy other plot, A+. We love that. I'm not really on the fence because, like, after I finished the sample last night, I'm like, oh, this is definitely something I want to continue. I'm really interested in this. I'm actually invested in this. So I think I will probably continue this one at some point. Last night I read the Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George. Unfortunately, I didn't like that one very much. It's hard to explain it, but basically what it is it takes place in Paris, and this guy owns this little bookshop, and he kind of calls it a book apothecary. So it's like if you come in and you have an affliction or whatever, he'll give you kind of a remedy and give you a book that you would need at that point in time. And the concept and the setting are great. Like, I absolutely love the concept of the book. And I mean, it takes place in France, which is, nice, because I think it's southern France, or it starts in Paris and then it travels down a river or something, because it's like a floating houseboat kind of bookshop thing. But the writing really did not work for me. I didn't connect to anything in the book, so that was really kind of disappointing, because I was expecting to really love it. Like, I read the premise and I was just like so excited. I thought it was going to be my next favorite thing, and it was not. So I'm actually really disappointed by it. But it's kind of one of those books I think you would need to be in a certain mindset for, or pick it up at a certain time. It's not one that you can just pick up and read on a whim. At least that was my experience with it. I did look up some reviews, and it's interesting because there's just a whole array of different thoughts and feelings on it. A lot of people don't like it for a variety of reasons. I'm disappointed in it, but at the same time, like, I think I would be tempted to maybe try again, because it's one that I want to like, but I just didn't. I don't know. I'm really torn about it, because I mean, I'm not going to continue it for the foreseeable future. It's just not a book that I want to read. If I don't connect to anything in a book at any point, I just don't care. I don't want to, be part of that. I don't want to force myself to read something that I'm not enjoying, even as much as I want to enjoy it, if that makes sense. I just finished The Royal We by Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan a little while ago, and I am inclined to continue with it. Is it the best thing I've ever read? No. Would it be more of a guilty pleasure, whatever that means, read for me? Yes. The writing is really not great. It has some pacing issues, and it just is just so over the top in every possible way. And the characters feel like caricatures rather than like normal people that you would actually interact with on a regular basis. At least to me, they just didn't. They felt so flat, and like there's nothing much to them except for the stereotype that they've been thrown into. The plot is, super cheesy, very predictable, and yet just, how you read a book and it's just like, I don't like anything about this, but it's really fun, so I'm gonna keep going anyway, just to like get your endorphins moving. That's kind of what this book is like. Basically, what this book is, in a nutshell, is Kate and William fan fiction. Period. Only if Kate were American, that's kind of how it is going. And there's like a sequel, I think, that just came out a few weeks ago, and I think that's kind of more the Harry, Meghan plotline story. I don't know. I haven't read that one. I don't know if I'm going to yet. We'll see how I feel after I read this one. But it's okay. And as I said, I will probably continue with it because it's just, I don't know, it's making me kind of happy. I just finished Running by Natalia Sylvester, and I absolutely loved it. I am definitely going to be continuing that one. It's a different kind of a contemporary, which is so refreshing. It's not a romantic contemporary for a change. It's more of like an identity, politics kind of contemporary, which I just love. So I'm really looking forward to continuing it. Writing is very easy flowing, fast moving. It's kind of told in a conscience memoir style. It's really interesting, and I really liked it. I loved getting to see the multilingual aspects and all of the cultural things that are being portrayed in there. So I mean, it is a contemporary setting, so it really does reflect our current politics and overall image of what the United States is or has been in the last couple of years. And it's really interesting because, the main concept of this book is our main character, Mariana. Her father is running for president, and she's learning things about him that she doesn't like. She just doesn't agree with a lot of his ideas. So it's all about identity and kind of figuring out what that means for her. Because she's always been a supporter of her father, like her whole life. And now that he's running for president and she's finding out all of these things about him, she's not so sure she's liking what she's seeing. And it's just kind of a journey of her figuring out how to deal with that and what that means. I'm just really liking that I'm getting to see things like that explored. Plus, because I am so politically involved in a lot of ways, I can relate to a lot of the things that are going on in the book. Not the parents running for president or even running for office part, or even just like the identity aspect, but just, I don't know, there's just something about it that's so relatable to me, and I really love it. I really love it. Mariana is a really interesting character. I really like the dynamic that she has with her whole family, in every possible way, whether they're agreeing or disagreeing or just sharing a cultural thing. I just really like how it's portrayed on page, and I can't wait to continue. I just finished Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I am definitely going to continue that one. It's so fun and just quick paced and just great all around. So I mean, like, as I said, I love the writing. The writing is very fast paced. I love being in Chloe's head. She's just such a wonderful character, and I really relate to her in a lot of ways. I think it takes place in England. It's a little unclear, but based off the dialogue and things, it just seems to fit. If you guys have read it, let me know if I'm wrong on that, but it definitely seems to fit that. The plot is really, really fun. like for a rom-com, I don't know what it is, but it's just so refreshing and unique. So basically, Chloe almost died at one point, and so now she's making a list of things to do so she can get a life, and it's just so interesting. And I mean, like there's a lot more to it than that, but that's like the basic gist. Characters, great. I love the dynamic she has with her family, particularly her sisters. I love the dynamic she has with the love interest, who we've sort of met but not really. And the just being inside, as I said, being inside of Chloe's head is great. She's sarcastic. She has chronic illness, and it's done well, at least from my experiences. I don't have the particular illness she does, which is fibromyalgia, but I know people who do, and I've talked to them at length about their experiences with fibromyalgia. So based on what I've seen, the rep in here is pretty good, but also from a chronic pain point of view, that is something that I can relate to. And just how people around her act around her, and kind of see what she's going through, and just how that dynamic works is just, it's so good. So Get a Life Chloe Brown is just fantastic, and I cannot wait to continue. I just finished Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's really, really important, and it's a really great book for a lot of people to read, but it just didn't quite capture me the way I wanted it to, but then at the same time, I kind of want to continue. So I don't know. I'm really, really on the fence about this one. It follows our main protagonist, Felix, who is transgender and is in his last year of high school and just kind of trying to figure out what he wants to do with his life, where he wants to go. He really wants to go to Brown for college, and he's really, really very artistic and everything. But he ends up getting into an issue at school where someone takes pictures of his former self and posts them all over the school along with his dead name. And that's kind of what happens from there. And he's just kind of trying to figure out where he fits in the world and what his identity is. The writing is interesting. I find that there's something about the dialogue and the character interactions that I'm not quite liking at the moment. I don't know if that changes as the book goes on, but the pacing is pretty well done, and the writing is overall really, really well done, very descriptive, very immersive. I really like that. The setting takes place in New York. There's really not much to talk about with that at this point. Plot is also fine. It's a typical kind of YA contemporary school setting one, where, they're just kind of trying to figure out their place in the world and getting ready to go off to college and that kind of a thing. And then, as I said, last is the characters. Our main character is Felix. Sometimes I find him to be frustrating, but then other times I really enjoy his character. And then it kind of also goes along with the interactions. Like, I have a feeling that Felix and his father's relationship will be explored a little bit more in the book, because we've gotten a taste of it already, and I really am interested to know more about them. Felix's friend Ezra is also really interesting. I really like their dynamic, at least at the start of the book. And yeah, it's really interesting, and some of the themes that are being explored are ones that I think are really important for people to learn about. I could assume that the representation is pretty good, at least in terms of the author's experiences. I don't know about other people's experiences with this topic, but from the few reviews that I have looked up, People really do seem to like it and love how it's being done and everything. So, from that aspect, I would say it's probably a really good book to pick up. There's just something about it that I'm not 100% sure about yet. So I'm gonna sit with it for a few days, and then I'll make up my mind before I am finished with this. So I just finished the Henna Wars a little while ago, and I loved it a lot. And I'm probably going to continue it. Writing in this one is really engaging, really immersive, and I really like it a lot. I love the setting as well. I mean, so far it seems to take place, I think, in India, and they're at a wedding, and that's just kind of how it started out. And I don't know, there's just something about the way that is incorporated is really interesting. The plot is not really a huge thing so far. It's our main character has come out to her family and said that she's a lesbian, and it's just, her parents are kind of saying, oh, it's just a phase, like she'll grow out of it, kind of a thing. And then at the wedding, she ends up reconnecting with someone that she hasn't seen since primary school, and just that dynamic is really interesting. I really like that. And then our characters are just wonderful. I love our main character and her interactions with her sister and her parents and her friends and her relatives. It's just a ton of fun. I like being in her head. I like the little that we've seen of the love interest so far. She's great, A+. I'm just really looking forward to continuing with this one. And another thing that I absolutely love about this is all of the cultural aspects that are part of the book. There are just a lot of things in there that I can personally relate to. So, I mean, even though they're talking a lot about Indian and like Bangladesh culture and everything, I can relate to a lot of the things that are being talked about in there, because Serbian culture is very similar in a lot of ways, very crazy. Everyone's related to each other. Sometimes you go to things and you're like, how do I know this person? How are we connected? How are we related? Because the structural system of society and culture with what are called kumovi are very complicated, and it's very similar to what she was describing in the book. And so, like, that just made me kind of laugh and just connect in a different way, rather than just being about, the characters and just me enjoying something. I have a different way of connecting, and I'm just really liking that. So this is one I am definitely going to continue, and I can't wait. I just read Patsy, and I really enjoyed it. I'm probably going to continue that one. It's not quite what I was expecting it to be in terms of calling it a contemporary. It has more of a historical fiction slash memoir feel to it almost, but I'm still really liking it. Even though I can kind of see why people are calling it contemporary, but I don't know. It's often categorized as whatever literary fiction is. But it follows our main character, Patsy, who is from Jamaica, and she has a friend, or a former lover, it's kind of alluded to, in the United States, named Cicely. She lives in New York, and all Patsy's wanted to do is follow her whole life. The only problem is Patsy has a baby. She has a daughter at home, and so she's trying to figure out the balance of what to do with her daughter, as well as chase after her dreams of getting out of Jamaica. So currently she's gotten her visa, and she's planning on leaving her daughter behind while she goes to the United States. And things kind of go from there. The writing is very easy to digest. I actually love the dialogue, because the author chose to kind of type out the Jamaican dialect. So I really liked that. That's not something I always enjoy in books, because sometimes I've had trouble with that in the past. I'm just kind of trying to figure out, but here it's really easy to digest and really easy to read, and just adds an extra layer to the story, so I love that. The setting is also really interesting. As I said, it takes place in Jamaica to start. I'm assuming we're going to get to New York sooner or later and see what kind of goes on from there. But just getting to see a little bit of the culture and the overall like customs and traditions and values that they have is really, really great. I love getting to see that. This does take place in 1998, so we get a little bit of like World Cup madness that's kind of just smattered in there, which I personally love because we know I'm trash for all of that. And just, I don't know, it's just really great. The plot is also interesting. We haven't gotten too much into the plot so far because it is a very character-centric book. But the little of the plot that we did have, I have really enjoyed as well. I really liked getting to see the immigration process portrayed in the book. A lot of people have gone through it themselves, so just getting to see that in the book is really great. And then as for the characters, they're all flawed, but they're also intriguing, and you want to know more about them. And I love that hook. I love I love how real they feel. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to continuing with this book at some point in the future. I finished I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver earlier today, and I really, really enjoyed it. I actually liked it a lot more than I was expecting to, because it just seems like the typical YA school setting contemporaries, which for some reason I can't quite connect with. I don't know what it is. There are some I like, but for the most part, they're not my favorite. There has to be something more to it than just everyday school setting plus romance thing. Like, I don't know. There just needs to be something more. But this one I'm really liking so far. What ended up happening is our main protagonist came out as non-binary to his parents. His parents were not a fan of that, so they kicked him out of the house. And he was being picked up by his sister, who I guess is estranged from her family or something. But so far, I'm really, really enjoying it. I loved being in the main character's head. I loved the tension that we got from everything that they were feeling and everything that was just going on. I have a feeling that I'm just really going to enjoy the things that are in the book. So I'm probably going to continue with this one, and I'm really looking forward to it. Just finished I Can Make This Promise by Christine Day, and I loved it. It's, at least the little that I've read so far, it's a middle grade novel about a young girl who is half white and half Native American, and she's just kind of trying to figure out her identity and get immersed in her culture a little bit more, at least the little that I've read so far. And I love stories that are like that, where you're exploring like a cultural identity. I really did enjoy the little that I read of I Can Make This Promise. I loved our main protagonist. She's great. I enjoyed her interactions with her family, and the little that we got to see with her and her friends was also really lovely. The writing is really easy to digest, and it's very impactful in a way. The setting is interesting, kind of. I mean, it takes place in Seattle, but I don't know too much else yet. And the plot seems like it'll be interesting. I don't know, but the little that I have read, I have enjoyed, so I'm definitely going to consider continuing this one. Just read and finished A Song for a Whale, and I'm kind of on the fence about it. I love the writing. It's very lyrical and beautiful and gorgeous. I love the themes. I love the representation of disability, because our protagonist is deaf, and sign language is used regularly throughout the book, so I love getting to see that. The setting is lovely, the little that we've gotten to see so far. The plot seems intriguing. It's basically about our young protagonist who feels very lonely and very isolated and ostracized in society, mostly her school setting. She learns about this whale who also has a similar situation to her, and she wants to reach out and kind of have a friendship with this whale. So that's really, really lovely. And then I like our main protagonist as a character. She's really, really interesting, and I understand her frustration and her situation of feeling ostracized and left out and lonely. So overall, I really do like it, but I hate the school setting aspect, and just the people around her are so infuriating, and it makes me angry because I know what that's like. What it's like to have a professor or a teacher or students condescend to you because of the way that you are. And I don't know if the book is going to be like that the majority of the time. I don't know how enjoyable it will be for me, but everything else is great. So I have to decide if it's worth it to push through before I decide to continue. I'm still on the fence about it. I finished Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli a little while ago, and I saved it for last for a reason, because it is literally the crowning contemporary of BookTube. But unfortunately, I was not a fan. Now, before you jump on my bones, let me explain myself. So, first of all, I didn't like the writing at all. I found it very juvenile, very choppy, very just grating. I just could not get behind the writing or the style. Normally, I like multimedia formats where it's like emails and then like between scenes kinds of things, but for some reason it just really wasn't working for me here. I couldn't stand a lot of the dialogue between the characters. I just couldn't get behind it. And I know that it was trying to be, high school age with all of the crazy discussions going on with, slang and different like memes and whatever, but it just was not working for me. So, didn't like the writing. The setting was its typical, normal, like high school setting with nothing else in between, really. So it just wasn't connecting to that. I have heard that there's like some really good friendship dynamics and some really good family dynamics as the book goes on, but I just don't care. Then moving on to the plot. The plot had some okay aspects, the little that I read, but for the most part, it was predictable and things that I really didn't care about. Also, I really, really hated the blackmail subplot or blackmail plot. It's just very problematic as, a closeted queer teen being blackmailed by someone who saw these emails that were meant to be private and threatens to post them somewhere if they don't try and help them get this one girl that they've had their eye on to like pay attention to them, kind of thing. Like, what is that? That's not okay. Not okay. And I don't know how the plot really goes from there. I think I have heard that Simon does get outed at some point, but like, really, come on, ew. Like, put yourself in that situation. Would you want that to happen to you? I don't think so. So, no. End of story. And then last, the characters, I couldn't get behind them. They're all caricatures and stereotyped to the 10th degree that I was like, I literally can't take any of these people seriously. And none of them feel real. They feel one-dimensional and like there's nothing to them, at least to the point that I was at. So, just overall, I really didn't like anything about it. It's now time to wrap this sample adventure up. I finished all of the contemporaries on my sample shelf that are out. I think I have 3 more that are coming out later this year that I haven't included in here. So, in total, I had 15 samples that I read, and I am keeping 7 of them and getting rid of 8 of them. So a pretty even split. There are a few on here that might surprise you because I said I was originally going to read them earlier in the video, and I have since changed my mind. While I was going through my list, I decided to do a little bit more digging before I officially decided what I was going to do, mostly for the on the fence ones. And after doing some digging, I kind of found out some things about the books that I didn't like, so I ultimately decided to remove them and therefore change my mind from earlier in the video. So, starting with the ones that I am getting rid of, so we can end this video on a positive note. As I said already, I'm getting rid of 8 books, and the 8 that I'm getting rid of are Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed, The Gravity of Us, The Little Paris Bookshop, Felix Ever After, Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli, Only When It's Us, By the Book, and I Wish You All the Best. Now, I know that there are a lot of people on here that are going to be surprised by some of the picks that I chose to get rid of, but I need a lot more in a book than just representation. I need a lot more in a book besides just good characterization and a cute story. I look for things that are have a little bit more substance to them. So contemporary mixed with something else, romance mixed with history, or romance mixed with a specific issue. It has to be more than just pure romance for the most part. There are a few that I would end up loving, but overall, that's where we're going. So I'm sorry if you guys are a little bit disappointed. I am just as disappointed as you are for some of these. But alas, that is why I have made this video, to determine whether something that I was kind of on the fence about reading in the first place is something that I truly wanted to pick up. Now, the books that I am keeping, as I already mentioned, I have 7 of them, and they are Patsy, Get a Life, Chloe Brown, The Henna Wars, The Royal We, Running, I Can Make This Promise, and Song for a Whale. Some of those that I was kind of unsure about, one of them is a purely guilty pleasure / just like, hey, I want something that I don't have to think about kind of reads that is really fun and just kind of a book candy kind of a thing. Another one that I was on the fence about, you remember I was on the fence about Song for a Whale. I ultimately did some more digging, and I ultimately decided that it does have more than a school setting, so I'm more inclined to read it than that. So I'm really looking forward to continuing with all of those. So I had a blast doing this, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching as well. I'm probably going to do it again. I am seriously even considering just doing this with pretty much every book I read, so it can save time rather than me waste my time reading a giant tome despite me not liking it or something along that sort. But I know that for some genres that will work better than others. It's easy to do with contemporaries, but probably not so easy to do with fantasy. So we'll see what I ultimately end up deciding. It's still a work in progress, but I do really like this process. It has definitely helped me weed things out. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know down below if you are surprised by any of these, or if you're really excited for me to pick up any specific book of the 7 that I listed. I'd be really curious to know your thoughts. And if you've read any of them, feel free to just come talk to me about them down in the comments below. But other than that, you guys know the drill. I have all of my social media links down below in the description, and I hope you're all staying safe and healthy and during this time, and I will catch you later in another video for you guys again soon. Bye!